Okay, everyone, let's go ahead and get started. We have an hour set aside for the meeting today, and the presentation portion of it is about 25 minutes long. By default, we've muted everyone on the call, so please write your questions into the chat as you think of them, and we'll have some time at the end to address those questions. There will also be a 3-question survey at the end once you exit the GoTo training. If you would, please fill that out and provide some feedback to us, and that's also how you can get access to that free lunch gift card that we mentioned in the invite. So this is Tyler Spoolstra speaking. I'm a territory sales manager for B&R in Indiana and Michigan. I've been working with B&R for about 9 years and work very closely with our channel partner, Kundinger Controls, who covers the whole entire state of Michigan. So Mike, if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself.
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. This is Mike Kundinger with Kundinger Incorporated. I head up our automation products group for Kundinger. For those that are not familiar with Kundinger, we have been servicing the Michigan and Wisconsin markets in the areas of fluid power, automation, process controls, and engineered solutions for over 50 years now. And next year we'll be celebrating our 60th year in business, so pretty exciting on that front. B&R Industrial Automation is our flagship product in our automation portfolio, and as you'll see in a moment, they are second to none when it comes to innovation. So once again, Tyler, really appreciate you helping us put this on, and looking forward to some good conversation here.
Sounds good. Anytime. So before we dive into the focus of the day, which is the ACOPOStrak, I want to just answer the quick question: what does B&R do, and who is B&R? So we're an automation solution provider, and we've been in business over 40 years. We have a collection of hardware and software that machine builders and system integrators use to control machinery or automate processes. And one of the main advantages of B&R ecosystem is that it's fully integrated. This means that all the products we have to offer, PLC, HMI, safety, motion, vision, and track technology, all work seamlessly and are programmed with one software tool. And today we're going to focus on the ACOPOStrak, but if there are other topics you'd like to cover in the future, please go ahead and type those into the chat. So first, Mike will start off by discussing a few key performance indicators that we see manufacturers using to evaluate their machine performance. And then we'll give an explanation of the ACOPOStrak system and its products, features, and use cases.
Thanks, Tyler. So like you just mentioned, generally speaking, the decision-making process for a manufacturing plant boils down to 4 main KPIs. There may be some other things that are important, but really the main drivers are boiled down to those 4. So in the development of ACOPOStrak from B&R, their goal was to specifically address these 4 KPIs. So let's have a look at those. First, we have return on investment. So return on investment is used to gauge the profitability of a given investment in manufacturing assets. When you make a substantial investment, you want to know how long it's going to take to get that money back and actually start making profit from the investment. Most important factor here, aside from purchasing costs, is the productivity of the asset. Second is availability. As one of the 3 components that make up overall equipment effectiveness, availability measures the percentage of planned production time that an asset is actually capable of operation. If a machine is not running, it could be due to a planned stop, such as maintenance or changeover, or an unplanned stop, such as a jam or breakdown. As product diversification continues to shrink batch sizes, the amount of downtime between batches becomes a dominant factor. If you want to produce small batches cost efficiently, you need to minimize this changeover time. If you want to go for batch size 1, you need to eliminate it altogether. Another component of OEE is our 3rd KPI, quality. Quality measures losses due to defective products. This is of central importance for small batch production. If we produce a batch of 10,000 parts and have 1 reject, that may be acceptable. However, if we're doing batch size 1 or mass customization and have one reject, it has a much larger impact. Lastly, our final KPI is time to market. So time to market has two dimensions. First, it applies to machine builders and system integrators. How long does it take them to bring a new generation of machine to market? Second, it applies to producers. How long does it take to produce a newly conceived product on an existing production line? Time to market is of particular significance for short-lived products and seasonal goods, such as holiday-themed products or products timed for special events like the Olympics or Super Bowl.
Cool. Thanks for getting us started there, Mike. I'll start by going into the basics of the ACOPOStrak system. So it's an intelligent transport system based on long stator linear motor technology, and it offers independent control of a variable number of shuttles, which are held on the track by permanent magnets. And those shuttles correspond to the rotor of a conventional rotary servo motor. So if you're thinking about this like a normal servo, the rotor, what spins, is the shuttle, the stator is the actual track. And other components of the system are mechanical guides, position sensors, signal and power electronics, and last but not least, some software. And we'll talk about those different pieces in a little bit more detail later. And the operating principle is actually pretty simple and straightforward. The shuttles carry permanent magnets, like I mentioned, and that creates an attraction force towards the motor stator. And the stator itself consists of an array of coils. The current fed into the stator coils generates a controlled propulsion force. And with this, you can move the shuttles in either direction quickly, accurately, and independently. So now that we've kind of talked through the basics, let's get into some of the key features of the ACOPOStrak system. And the first major feature is the track's design flexibility. So by arranging 4 basic track segments on a standard grid, it's about 660 by 660 or a little over 2 foot square, the ACOPOStrak can morph into almost any shape. So track segments can be closed or open and can bind freely on the grid. And this really allows you to design the track to match the needs of the process and not the other way around. This is a pretty big benefit. So there are 4 types of track segments. We have the straight segments, we have curved segments, and we have circular arc segments. You can also see there's some connectors for power and data communication between the different segments of track, as well as the shuttles. And of course, a guide rail system for those shuttles to ride on. So now that we talked a little bit about that, let's dive into the segments. Each track segment has a height of about 85 millimeters or 3.5 inches roughly. The straight segment is 80 millimeters wide and 660 millimeters long. And again, that's corresponding to that grid size I mentioned before. The segments are enclosed in welded stainless steel housing, and this allows us to meet the primary packaging or aseptic requirements in some of like the food and beverage, chemical, or pharmaceutical industries. This could be a requirement. So there are also 5 different types of guide rails available. So there's a straight guide rail, 45-degree turn, 90-degree turn, 135 degrees, and 180 degrees. And we have chosen a different base kit for the guides compared to the track segments that we discussed on the previous slides. This was done in order to avoid stacking up manufacturing tolerances of the guide rails. So this helps allow like for smooth and accurate control around turns and curves. And that helps, save some space by being able to do some processing on the curve and not have to wait to get to a straight section to get that accuracy and precision that you need. So now that we kind of talked about the segments and the guides, let's talk how they fit together into a system. So now we can see a fairly large ACOPOStrak layout, which is starting to take advantage of the flexibility and modularity of the system. And one straight track segment or stator fits with one straight guide. And for an example, a 45-degree guide rail requires 2 curved track segments, one curved to the left and the other curved to the right. As you can see, a 180-degree guide has one curved segment right, 3 circular arc segments, and 1 curved segment left inside of that guide rail. And the really powerful thing here is with a single B&R computer, we can have up to 100 meters of track with more than 250 shuttles on that track. And on the same computer, we can host HMI software, integrated vision technology. We can control other devices like servos or even robots. And I think this is really powerful when it comes to creating a really, truly integrated system with the least amount of latency possible. And the most important product feature, and I think one that really defines ACOPOStrak best, is the HighSpeed Diverters. I think our R&D team really kind of knocked it out of the park with this one. And the HighSpeed Diverters just make it possible to divide and merge product flows at full production speeds. So on the next slide, we'll just take a look at how that works. So a shuttle with a diverter capability is equipped with magnet plates on both sides, not just on one. And if everything is perfectly symmetric and the shuttle is right in the middle between 2 tracks, then the forces of attraction cancel each other out. And by sending a special current pattern into the motor coils, we weaken the force of the magnetic attraction towards one motor stator and we strengthen it towards the other. This allows the shuttle to attach itself to the desired stator, as shown in this image on the screen. In short, that's how the diverter is working, but the best thing about this is there's no additional servo or motor or actuator required to do this, and that eliminates a lot of maintenance. The third key product feature is the hot swappable shuttles. They're a true highlight of both the ACOPOStrak system and the SuperTrack system. And ACOPOStrak shuttles, like we said, are held on by just permanent magnetic force alone, and they can be taken off and remounted in a matter of seconds. This is unique compared to how some of the others on the market handle their shuttles. And in combination with the ACOPOStrak's design flexibility, it's possible to build dedicated pit lanes for service and changeover. And so while shuttles are moving around the track at full production speed on the production lines of the track, shuttles for the next job can be prepared on the pit lane. And in this way, it's possible to achieve 0 downtime changeover, which is boosting the availability component of OEE Mike was talking about earlier. ACOPOStrak was also designed to maximize productivity. So the shuttles have a 50mm pitch, and that allows you to produce more per unit time, resulting in higher throughput and helping accelerate that return on investment that we were also talking about. So if you look at the top, you can see these are actually staggered wheels. So you can take these shuttles all the way up next to each other and truly achieve that 50mm pitch to fit more products into the system. Of course, you could also put multiple products per shuttle depending on payload and things like that. So let's talk a little bit about the technical specifications of the ACOPOStrak. The rated speed is 4 meters per second with a maximum acceleration of 5 Gs at the nominal payload. And ACOPOStrak operates at a 60-volt DC bus voltage and can be mounted really in any orientation, so horizontally, vertically, or really any other inclination. Each application is uniquely sized appropriately, so these specifications are not hard limits. If your requirements fall outside of these parameters, we still like to discuss that project because you can combine shuttles or decrease speed in order to increase the possible payload, and there's some things we can do on that. I also wanted to just point out here we have the single computer. We have a B&R servo drive system, which is controlling some external servos, and then we're feeding the 60-volt DC to the track, so we can have everything integrated into a single controller, and potentially even expand this to control something like a robot and integrate that with the same controller as well. We've talked about how the motor segments are tightly welded stainless steel housing, and that's available today with IP65 protection on the entire system. And our next release of the system will be an IP69K version, which is a food grade design, hygienic and food grade design. And when it comes to accelerating the time to market, one of the secrets is the smart system software. that we use to control this track. This is all done within Automation Studio, and there are really three core components of the ACOPOStrak software. One is process-oriented programming. The other one is integrated collision avoidance. And lastly, it's the digital twin capability of the system. So with process-oriented programming, there's no need to generate motion profiles for each individual shuttle. Especially for larger numbers of shuttles, that would be pretty cumbersome, and it would honestly be pretty time consuming. So instead, you set the rules to define how the shuttle should move on a given piece of track. And you can also don't have to implement collision avoidance in the application software. And that would also be quite complex considering the flexibility and design layout. And so that's built into the firmware as a feature of our software. So all collision avoidance is handled at the firmware level and developed by B&R. Together with these features, that makes engineering pretty fast and pretty efficient. It's also pretty straightforward to simulate an ACOPOStrak on your PC. You can configure and program it just like you would the real system. And then you can visualize the movements in 2D or 3D together with the movement of any additional machines. Once you're happy with what you see in the simulation, it takes just a few clicks to run the same application code on a real system. And with the ACOPOStrak digital twin technology, you can reduce risk in the project at an early stage and start engineering long before you actually install the real system. And we're kind of always coming out with new tools, since it's a newer technology, to help us get better at creating these digital twins. And one of the latest things our R&D team came out with is a mechanical and thermal analysis tool, so we can actually see what kind of response we would get on a real system, even while just running a simulation. So the last feature I want to talk about here today is interlinking conveyors. So you can see we have a standard flex link conveyor moving a shuttle, and then it can hand off onto the ACOPOStrak system. And this really helps with the cost justification of investing in a technology like this. Obviously, this wouldn't be a great replacement for a standard conveyor if there's no additional processing. So being able to integrate with these FlexLink conveyors and have the intelligence where you need it, and just have a standard conveyor where that is acceptable, really makes this an economic solution, so that different applications where this may not have been feasible in the past can use this technology now. So with that, I'll pass it back to Mike to go through some of the animations and simulations that we put together for this.
Thanks, Tyler. So with ACOPOStrak, you can merge product flows responsively and in real time. This lets you do things like compose custom sets or variety packs in batch size 1. Here, ACOPOStrak is the key enabling technology for cost-efficient batch size 1 production without any changeover. It elevates the availability component of OEE to a level that makes mass customized batch size 1 production economically attractive. So as you, there we go. Next, of course, with ACOPOStrak, you can not only merge product flows, but divide them as well. This allows you to do things like divert defective products on the fly and on a product-by-product basis. Here we see products that start off blue because we do not know if they are good or bad. As product quality is checked using a vision system, they turn green if they pass inspection and red if they fail inspection. The green ones continue straight ahead while the red ones are diverted away. ACOPOStrak paves the way for total quality production. So again, this is showing you the blue balls there, and then when they're good, green is going straight. Oop, there's a red one. So it failed and was diverted away. The flexibility of ACOPOStrak gives us another benefit, which is a new level of fault tolerance. there's a problem at one processing station, the operator can simply disable that station and the transport system will no longer send products there for processing. The result is an increase in both the availability and quality component of OEE. So once again, demonstrating, we've got an item in red there on the process. It's had a problem. Now we're no longer sending any product there. Skipping that, now it's recovered and everything's back in full production. Then on the other side, same thing, we had 2 issues. So we continue producing at a lower rate, wait for the system to recover, and now we're back to full production. ACOPOStrak can increase the productivity of machines and lines, and not just by 5 or 10%, but much more drastically. This is because on conventional fixed indexing transport systems, productivity is limited by the slower station. With an intelligent track system, we can overcome this limitation and multiply productivity by setting up multiple instances of slower stations. The productivity gain can be substantial and is determined by the difference in processing time between the fastest and the slowest station. With ACOPOStrak as the next generation of intelligent track technology, we can process on parallelized lines enabled with load balancing. This is a real game changer for productivity. When you invest in new manufacturing equipment and are operating in growth markets, chances are really high that you will eventually outgrow your installed capacity. The choices often are buy additional machines or replace the old one. Both are challenging to budgets and productivity. ACOPOStrak makes it easy to build scalable machines. Simply add new ACOPOStrak segments and an additional processing station, and you have upgraded your capacity with minimal investment. This is true investment security and multiplies the return on your investment in production machinery. And we all know floor space is precious within the manufacturing plant. With ACOPOStrak, you can build extremely compact machines that deliver increased productivity per square foot or square meter of floor space. This further optimizes your return on investment and helps you to get the most out of your building infrastructure. So that's the high-level overview of the technology. I think right now we'll open it up to some questions, so feel free to type those in the chat line while we're waiting for some of those to come through. We've got displayed on the screen here a YouTube link. So one of the best ways to see this in action is some of the videos that have happened at trade shows and at customer locations that are using the technology in their applications. We had some of these put into the presentation, but due to the streaming quality, it doesn't do it justice. So if you get some time later on, we highly recommend going to the YouTube channel and checking that out, and we'll put this link in the chat window as well.
Yep, and we do have a question, Mike. One of the questions is, can ACOPOStrak work with other control systems like Rockwell Siemens or something like that?
So absolutely, there's a way to make this a subsystem on another network. So one of the nice benefits with B&R is they have the ability to add interface modules. So they have a selection of Ethernet IP, Profinet, EtherCAT. So you'd still need a B&R controller in the system with the software, but it's very easy then to tie that into a third-party hardware and software solution.
Okay, good. All right, that was the only question I had seen in the chat. I will put this link into the chat so everyone has a copy of it, and they can go and watch those videos. And I guess just in closing, I just want to say that this technology is not really just a concept any longer. We have plenty of customers, OEMs and end users in a lot of different industries. who have started using this equipment, and they've seen pretty big improvements in their OEE and flexibility. So please take a look at that link we put out there, because there's some customer testimonials and real projects that we can talk about. Most of the time these are protected by NDA, but with the ones that we have on our YouTube channel, obviously we have permission to publish those. So please take a look at that link.
Yeah, and from my side, again, I really appreciate everyone taking some time here. Hopefully everyone is staying safe, and oh, looks like we do have another question here real quick. So approximate lead time on delivery.
Depends on the number of segments, but that's going to range between 4 and 8 weeks, just depending on the number of segments that you're using.
Yeah.
B&R manufactures all of this technology.
Yeah, to follow up with that, myself and Tyler, we go to Austria every year for a global sales conference, and this past year was the first tour of the manufacturing facility making those tracks. So this product has been out for 3 years now. A good portion of that time was pilot customers and making sure the product was ready. Now it's definitely available for any series machines, but they are scaling that up. They have quite the capacity and throughput, so it's definitely nice to see that they're able to respond with all the new projects that are coming in. So like Tyler said, pretty reasonable lead time, and what I've seen in the market with just general servo motors and gearboxes, I mean, we're able to get these components in the same time or better than some of those components. Okay,
okay. Last call for questions, guys. All right. I don't see any more coming in, Mike.
Yeah. So again, thank you, everyone. Tyler, I don't know if you want to throw our oh, you've got it on the screen. Yeah, if there's anything that comes up afterwards, we're more than happy to do individual web meetings during the current situation. It's quite effective. And as we mentioned before, any kind of ideas, we do simulations with every project with this. So it's really quite remarkable to see ideas get put into the simulation and more from there. Last bit of takeaway here: when you guys fill out that survey, generates the list for us. The gift card, it'll take a couple days because it's a manual thing, so there's no automation behind that process. So give us a few days. For sure, by early next week, we'll be sending out the email links for the gift cards for all the participants. So once again, thank you all.